Hello everyone and welcome to another Directions Mag Geospatial webinar, today sponsored by our friends at Vertigis. I'm Barbara Duke, Managing Editor here at Directions Magazine, and thank you for stopping by directionsmag.com. So a warm welcome to our friends from Vertigis. They are excited to talk to us today about streamlining our locating task and prevent damage to subsurface infrastructure with a GIS-centric approach. And we do love GIS around here. So welcome to Emily and Parker. We are excited to learn more. Over to you, Emily.
Yes, thank you for that intro. We love GIS as well, so we're excited to be here and to chat a bit about damage prevention, which is certainly something important to all of us who have facilities buried in the ground. So a quick overview of how the next 30 minutes or so will look. We're going to chat just a bit about damage prevention and why it's important, what some industry research and data tells us about the causes of damage and how we can help prevent it. And then we'll jump into how GIS can help in that process with a live demo. Parker will show you guys that, and then of course answer some of your questions. So let's start off by just talking about what happens when damage prevention goes wrong. This is a situation we're all trying to avoid. Of course, you've probably seen headlines like these. Hopefully you've not been in one of these headlines recently, but if you Google utility damages, you'll get a ton of stories like this popping up. I do have to share, this is perhaps my favorite headline that I found during research for this session. It's from last April, where a construction crew actually hit the fiber line to the 811 center, so no one could make locate request. How ironic is that? But anyway, we all know how important damage prevention is, because situations like these are very expensive, they're disruptive to our businesses and to our communities and the people who use our utility services. And in some cases, depending on the utility, they can actually be quite dangerous. So we obviously want to avoid putting people in those situations. So one group that we work with at Vertigis is called the Common Ground Alliance. You may or may not be familiar with them, but they do a ton of great work in the damage prevention space, and they do a lot of research which gets published each year in their DIRT report. So the most recent one came out in October, and it's examining data on damages across the US and Canada for the calendar year 2019. And in it, they make sort of 9 recommendations based on all that data about things we can all be doing to help reduce damages. So there's 3 in particular that I want us to look at a little more closely today, and we'll start with the first one there, which is examining pressures on our locators. So our locators have very important jobs. They're the ones who go out and mark the ground and make sure that our buried facilities remain safe. 1 in 3 locators says that having a heavy workload is their biggest challenge to completing their work accurately and on time, which is kind of a big deal, especially when you consider the fact that annual volume of locates is rising across the region. Essentially, every dollar we spend on construction is translating to more locate requests each year. And when you start to look at the breakdown of how this volume actually happens over the course of the year, you'll see on this heat map, and perhaps not surprisingly to any of you, that the summertime is when we see the most damages and also the most locate requests. The weather is warm, the ground is soft, and so this is naturally when a lot of construction and excavation projects happen. So 50% of damages in any given year happen between May and August. So what this tells us is having a scalable workflow for your damage prevention and locating teams is really important. As people managing this process, you're going to need good data-driven insights so that you can properly resource and plan, both in terms of number of locators, on your team, but also what skill sets those people have to be able to manage these sort of seasonal fluctuations throughout the year. In terms of opportunities for improvement, we know that damages are on the rise, and they have been for the last 5 or so years. The data from 2018 to 2019 shows about a 4.5% uptick in damages, and the total economic cost of these damages is around $30 billion with a B dollars a year. So that's obviously a lot of money that we would love to be investing back into our infrastructure instead of dealing with these unexpected damages. And so if we look at how root cause of damages breaks down, you can see in this nice little donut chart here that about 29% of damages in the dark blue, those come from excavation issues where maybe proper practices weren't followed. This number is actually going down year over year, so it's great to see that. Locating being the root cause is about 28%. This is actually going up, which is part of why we're talking about it today. And then about 29% as well is just no request was made. No one called 811, no one let anyone know they were about to open up the ground. So of course we want to avoid those situations as well. But what's interesting to me about the breakdown here is that there's really kind of equal opportunity throughout the entire damage prevention process for improvement. So every person sort of in this group of stakeholders can do something about the way we get things done today to make things better. And as people who own and operate utilities, the place where we can probably have the most impact and the most control over the process is around locating, because we have an invested interest in keeping our facilities safe. So this is especially true for those of you who may be managing broadband networks. As you can see here, telecommunications lines are the most likely to be damaged out of any utility, and so much so they're about half of all damages reported in a given year. So if you've got fiber in the ground, or you're thinking about bringing fiber to your community, this is something you should definitely be aware of. And in terms of technology, something we found super interesting is that 99% of locators surveyed said that having field access to updated facility maps would help them improve the accuracy and timeliness of their work. And so naturally, as GIS people, we thought, well, hey, we have maps. We know where our facilities are. Hopefully, we have all those mapped out in our GIS. And so this is something we could actually fix. We can do something about this. We could help our locator friends out in this regard. So that's why we wanted to talk to you guys today about how having a GIS-centric approach using a tool like Pinpoint can help streamline this whole process and make life a little bit easier. So I've asked Parker to start out with a quick overview of what Pinpoint is, and then he's going to dive into a live demo so you guys can see it in action for yourselves. So with that, I will turn it over to Parker.
All right, so thanks again, Emily, for the introduction and kicking things off. It's really good to be here with everyone today talking about damage prevention and Pinpoint. Certainly a huge part of my life, and it's something that we, as Emily has shown, it's a huge part of everyone's life that deals with underground assets. And so as Emily mentioned, I'm going to be talking about Pinpoint. So the very first question you're likely to have is, well, what is Pinpoint 811? And in a short statement, Pinpoint is a complete, easy to read and efficient system for managing the damage prevention workflow at your company. We say it's a workflow because it fits within the context of the GIS that you already have and helps you manage that flow of information as it passes across different parts of the organization and people's different tasks. So we pull that off with 5 different sections of Pinpoint. Pinpoint has a SaaS email processing and 811 agency architecture. So everything that's pulling in those locating requests and communicating back to the 811 agencies that are involved is all hosted up in the cloud. And then we make that data available to other systems for integration via a couple of different REST APIs. And then from there, we provide a browser-based map interface for both dispatchers and locators so they can easily see and work within an environment they're familiar with. We also have a user administration site that allows people to manage access to the system and set up things like notifications via email. And then lastly, we have a reporting site where users can download some pre-made reports on the metrics related to their damage prevention workflow. And we also offer that same data up via an API. So if you're working with a system like Tableau or Insight applications, you're going to be able to pull in that same data via an API and generate any kind of reports that you'd like. So as we were building out Pinpoint, we wanted to tie it down to some values, some core values, so that we always knew what are the goals we're trying to reach. And as we built Pinpoint, our first value was risk reduction. As Emily demonstrated, when things go wrong, they can go very wrong in the damage prevention space, and especially when you're dealing with things like gas and power, it's not just a quality of service issue, it's also a safety issue, both for employees and for the general public. So with Pinpoint, we're ensuring that your teams are always going to be able to correctly receive, process, map, and then respond to any damage prevention request in real time. Secondly, employee efficiency. We know, especially in today's world, employees are all over the place. Many of them don't even come to the office, if ever, sometimes rarely, but they still need to be able to work efficiently and quickly. And so with Pinpoint, the way it plugs into the GIS that you're already maintaining, and you've already got a GIS maintaining those underground assets, well, Pinpoint adds a layer on top and then makes that an easy to use platform to view and then manage those requests in context of the information you're already maintaining. Then business continuity. Again, people are moving around a lot. You've got people who maybe taking PTO, maybe sick, anything like that. You can't let that slow down your business. The damage prevention requests are going to continue to come in regardless of whoever is in the office that day or who's working that day. And if you've got a centralized system that's centered around your GIS, you're going to be able to continue working because people can easily be trained to manage that same environment. Lastly, auditing and reporting. We know how important it is, especially as you get more and more requests for our partners to understand the metrics around damage prevention. How many tickets are coming in each day? How many do we have to send actual locators to? How many can we just clear? All those sorts of questions, you really can't answer them unless you have good quality historical data. And Pinpoint has been designed to track all that in real time and then provide that to you, again, through a self-serve site or through an API. So you can make real-time decisions about how big your team needs to be. Maybe you need to hire more people, or maybe you have too many. Maybe you need to look at having contractors come and help you. Well, Pinpoint makes those decisions much more clear. So Emily talked a bit about the damage prevention workflow, and so I do want to highlight that again and show exactly where Pinpoint fits into that workflow and how that ties to your GIS. So this workflow essentially goes from left to right. You've got the locate request on the left, and that could be just a citizen wanting to put an irrigation system in their yard, or it could be an excavator who's putting in a new power line down to a 2-mile stretch of road. Either way, most states ingest those requests via 811 agencies. So your one-call notification center or your 811 agency. They're going to be a centralized place for those requests to come in. And then they have maps that help them determine which of their members may or may not be affected. And then they send out a bunch of emails to those potentially affected members. And at that point, Pinpoint takes over for all of our partners. Pinpoint's going to be listening for those emails, and the first thing it's going to do is parse out the relevant information. And we parse out 2 sets of information. We parse out the metadata. So when is that locate due? Who requested it? And then we also parse out spatial data. So where is that locate bounding box in the world? How does it relate to other parts of the GIS? We serve that data up via REST API to whatever web GIS you have. So your teams can interact with it alongside their map. And then they can respond, and that's where that positive response arrow goes back. So in Pinpoint, users are able to decide Can I just clear this locate? Do I need to send a request that I've marked it? Anything like that is sent back directly to the 811 agency systems. So that's a huge efficiency there, because now your teams don't have to sign into another system to close out that ticket so that that original requester knows that they're able to work. So Pinpoint fits into that workflow very quickly and efficiently, so your teams can stay in one place and get all the information they need and notify other people of the information they need to know to continue to work. So we want to move ahead with another poll right before we jump into the demo here. So you can see this poll here is just helps us kind of understand how everyone involved in the webinar now is handling the locates. You know, whether or not you have employees that handle all your locating work. Maybe you have field technicians that pull double duty. They locate sometimes. They do INR functions as well. Or maybe you work with contractors. USIC and Bloodhound are two big companies that we have experience with. Or maybe you have a mix of both. We have partners that fall all along the spectrum here. And so we're familiar with the ways Pinpoint can help in each of these situations.
Great. So we'll give folks just another couple of seconds. And let's see those results. 58% employees, coming in second with a mix. Very good.
Great. That sounds good. All right. Well, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the demo of the system here. So as you'll be able to see on your screen now, I've got a typical WebGIS. This is actually a WebGIS product that Vertigus offers called GeoCortex. And you're easily going to see that what we've got here is a map. This happens to be a map of a water system. And so you're going to see, you know, this is some representative of some underground assets that are managed by a company providing water service. And so this system's already going to be maintained by some group in the organization, but what we're able to do with Pinpoint is layer in that damage prevention on top, so then you can see those locating requests alongside of your current map. So I'm going to go ahead and log into Pinpoint here, so that then I have access to my damage prevention data. So when I do that and I complete my login, you're going to see Pinpoint start to show me locating request. On the left here, I've got what we call our live list. And this is a list showing me my filtered locates. So I'll demonstrate the filter in a minute, but as you can see, the list shows me the information I need to know to make a quick decision. So let's say I'm a dispatcher, I sign in the morning, and I've come in, and I just need to quickly see, is there any work I can do? Well, I can see my list. I can also look on the map and I see some gray boxes. So that's how we tie together the spatial data with that metadata. On the left, I can see when elements are due. I can see the provider they're coming from. And I can hover over this box here and see that my status, if it doesn't have any symbol in the middle, that means that's open. And then if I want to hover over my classification, I can see that exclamation point that denotes an emergency. Then I can also see under my assignee box, I've got no symbol here. So this tells me that I've got several emergency locates that are not assigned yet and they're still open. So that would tell me there's some critical work I've got to do. So if I click on one of those locates, Pinpoint is going to drill down right there on the map and show me right there, are there any assets in this area that I might need to respond to? This one's a good example of something where this is probably outside of the actual territory of the partner. And so they're able to quickly assess this because they know they've already got their GIS layers turned on, and they can decide, okay, well, what do I need to do next? Maybe I'm a dispatcher. I want to go ahead, assign that work to me so that no one else grabs a hold of it. And you can see over here, my initials pop in. So now if any other dispatcher signs into the system, they're going to be able to easily see, hey, someone's working on that. I'm going to go to the next item in the list. And then from there, because I don't have any real work to do, I can go ahead and just look at my list of responses. And any response you see in this list is going to be coming from the agency's approved list of responses. So that means that any one I choose here is going to be accepted by their system. So I'm going to go ahead and choose clear, which then puts a check mark over here, and I can hover over it and see that I chose the no conflict or clear message, and then I can go ahead and close out my work there. And then you can see as a dispatcher, I've gone ahead and taken something off the workload that we had to deal with in less than 5 minutes. And that's really our goal, is to let people in less than 5 minutes determine, is there any work that actually needs to be done beyond just clearing the locate? As we talk to others in the industry, we see that many times people are spending over an hour trying to parse through an email inbox, not really sure if anyone's already done that before them, pull up different system signing in to see different maps, and then once they're done, they have to then go back and sign into another system to respond. Well, with Pinpoint combined with your GIS, you're already right there in one place. You can do that. So if I want to see something else, maybe I'm looking in this area and I say, okay, well, I've got some other stuff on the map and I just want to click on it. I don't want to click on something in the list because I'm not sure where it is in the list. Well, I can just click on something on the map and do the same thing. And now I can see, okay, now I've got another box here on the map, and maybe I actually need to send this one out. So I can assign it to someone else on the team, and then when they sign in, they're able to see the same view and be able to work from it. And from there, if I'm a locator out in the field, maybe just what's here on the map is not quite enough information. Well, we make that pretty simple in Pinpoint, where I can just click on the email here, and this is going to be the original email communication that's coming from the agency. You can see it has a lot of additional information, some of which I might need to know to continue to work. Maybe I need to know some specific additional information about this particular job. But once I do that, I can go back and decide, what do I need to do? Maybe I need to make a comment. This is something that's very common, where we have teams that want their locators to make comments in the field about exactly what work they did. So if they want to say, okay, I actually went out and flagged this locate, you can do that, and that's going to be tracked in the system, so you know exactly who made the comment and when. Maybe I also want to do some attachments. So if I am a locator and I want to take pictures of what I'm doing, I can go ahead and take a picture directly from my device, and then I can put that right into the system, and Pinpoint is going to store that that image that I had, and if I need to come back later and determine what someone did, I'm going to already have that locate saved. So once I've done those two things, maybe then I'm ready to close out that locate. Well, I can go ahead and say I've gone ahead and located this. It's going to, again, update the entire system, and then I'm going to be able to move on to my next task. And one last thing I wanted to show is the filter. Again, I briefly mentioned it, that's what's generating the list here. So maybe I want to change some parameters, or maybe I want to look at what's going on in a particular area. So if I click over to my filter, you can see that I had already pre-selected some information here. I said, well, I only want to see open or in progress tickets. I don't need to see closed. And I only want to see tickets from Texas 811. But another thing I can do is enable what we call our proximity filter, which is going to have Pinpoint take these filter options into account, but also search spatially so that I can determine what is on the map within my current map view. So you see, now that I've done that, I've got several new locates that popped in because I'm searching just for this area that I can view. So we have a lot of teams that utilize this to have their teams be more efficient, where once they close a particular locate, they can then run a search again in that same area that they're already at, and then see, hey, did anything come in while I'm here that I can go ahead and take care of, so I don't need to spend time driving to another location only to find out that a couple of locates came in right where I was. So we hope that through this short demo, you're able to see how efficient this system can be, especially when it's combined with your GIS. But there's several other aspects of the system, but in the interest of time, I'm going to answer some questions. I'm going to go ahead and go back to the slideshow and then keep going.
All right, so just a few quick things to remember. Using sort of a GIS-centric approach like we've done with Pinpoint is going to help you evaluate locate requests faster. You're very easily going to be able to see, does this locate boundary intersect with where our network lives? You can also use that to reduce the amount of people you're sending in trucks out to mark ground that maybe doesn't really need to be located, and all that's going to help you stay on top of that influx of work, manage the ticket volumes coming in, especially during that busy season, and lower your risk for damages.
So Parker, for you, how does Pinpoint read the comments section on the 811 system? Sometimes they are getting requests for a certain address, but the comment in it says it's a spot 500 feet to the east of that address.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I did briefly touch on that during the demo, but I think it'd be good to dive into that a little bit. So Pinpoint reads in all of that information that's coming across from the agency's emails, and typically there's a section in those emails that's called additional information or worksite notes, and Pinpoint makes that information available in the GUI. So when you click on that email symbol, you're going to be able to see that full email. And then in there, you'll be able to see what they said in those additional sections. So you don't have to go to a different system to get it. It's going to be right there for you.
Perfect.
Yep, and then I'll just add as well, you can use that address to also search in your GIS and see if something pops up. So, okay, maybe the boundary box from the 811 agency was a little large. I think we saw a few in Parker's demo where it was a pretty big area that the 811 agency indicated. So your locator has all the tools they need there to find the information they need.
Excellent. Just remind folks, go ahead and type in those questions. We'll still got time for a couple more here. Can you attach a video to a ticket?
Yes, you can. So I did mention images during the demo, but Pinpoint also allows you to attach videos. We can accept videos of almost any type. And really, you can attach files, other types of files that might be necessary as well. So if you want to attach a PDF or something like that you can track later, that's also supported by Pinpoint. Great question.
Can the system track damages and near misses?
Yep, so I didn't have a chance to demo that, but we do have what we call strike tracking functionality in Pinpoint that allows users to designate that a locate, was involved with a strike. And hopefully that never happens, but if it does, you'll be able to designate that locate was attached to a strike, and then through the reporting engine and the reporting API, you'll be able to run metrics on how many strike events were tied to specific locates, and that way you really have a clear vision of how much that's happening. Yeah, so I see the one about what happens when you close out a ticket in Pinpoint. And so what Pinpoint is able to, we work with the different 811 agencies around North America, and nearly all of them provide API access to their systems. So Pinpoint is able to pull in the accepted responses they have. They call them response codes sometimes. So whether something's cleared, might be response code 1, or marked might be response code 2. And when a user in Pinpoint chooses one of those codes, Pinpoint's SaaS backend connects to that 811 agency system via API and closes out the ticket in their system, so that when anyone from the 811 agency signs in, or the excavator original ticket requester signs in, they can see the response that your team sent.
That's great. So we'll take this one last question. We want to honor folks' time today. How is the transition for people who are used to an old system? Is it easy to train locators that are 30 years into their career already?
Yeah, I would say we've had a lot of success with helping people learn the system. We've worked very hard to make the GUI intuitive. There's not too many buttons on the screen. There's just enough for you to be able to do your job, and we've tried to make the ways in which you interact with it easy so that you can quickly see what you need to do. So if someone is used to navigating various websites, we think Pinpoint fits right in there and is able to be learned quickly. Most of the time we have nothing more than an hour training with field users, and we let them train for about an hour and then let them spend some time testing it, and then they're usually good to go.
Well, that's great news. Thank you again to Emily and Parker for sharing their expertise, and a shout out to Shane for his support as well. We hope that you go make it a great day. Tell a friend about Vertigus and Directions Magazine. Thanks, everybody.